Welcome back to another training with John, your performance mindset coach. In today's training, we're going to look at 5 ways to eliminate self-sabotage from your life. So basically, you can stop getting in your own way. I think everyone is guilty at some part of their life of self-sabotaging, and we probably do it in more ways than most will ever realize, whether it's in a business sense or whether it's relationships or whether it's with your personal health. So let's have a look at what we're going to dive into. And we're going to look at 5 practical ways to eliminate self-sabotage so you can unlock your full potential and start achieving your goals that you've actually set for yourself. It's always good to remember that a 25-year study that was done by a 25-year study that was done on goal setting and New Year's resolutions showed that 92% of people who set goals never achieve them, which shows you how much we self-sabotage our own success. All right, so why is self-sabotage important? Well, why is eliminating self-sabotage important? Well, number one is leads to missed opportunities when we get in our own way. Number two is unfulfilled potential. So we never get to actually fulfill our potential because of the fact we get in our own way and we don't execute on what we need to. And it also affects our life happiness and fulfillment because we have that sense of lack of accomplishment, lack of wins, and when we point the mirror back at ourselves, it actually affects our self-image. So don't forget, before we move on, that there's a free worksheets in the description that you can get for this copy. Or if you're watching on Facebook, just type "hit me" and I'll send you over a copy. So what are the problems? Well, number one is we often stems from a deep-seated belief about our self-worth or fear of failure. All right. So sometimes it's a coping mechanism that keeps us in our comfort zone, even when the comfort zone is limiting our growth. So it becomes a coping mechanism for us, hence why we go back to it over and over again. I like to see it as a way of soothing. If you think of a newborn child, they have a soother. It helps them cope. It helps them comfort them. We don't have that as adults, so we often use things that are not serving and that become forms of self-sabotage. So what are the deep-rooted or seated beliefs that are below the surface, or the language you have about your self-worth or fear of failure that's actually driving those behaviors in the first place? So some examples: procrastinating on a project. Maybe you have a business idea, or maybe there's something you want to introduce into your business, but you're procrastinating on it because of a fear of failure. Burnout, because you don't want to deal with your thoughts. So you might have burnout because you don't want to deal with the thoughts that you're having. Self-soothing to cope, right? So ways of self-soothing as a coping mechanism to deal with stress, anxiety, and day-to-day challenges in life. So what can we do instead? Number one is we need to identify what is the self-sabotage pattern that we have, or our cycle. Then we need to reframe it. So what's something we can do instead? How can we break or interrupt the pattern? And then how can we build affirmative habits that support this over time? So let's look at identify. What is your cycle? So how does it show up for you? What's the trigger that then leads to you maybe heightened anxiety or fear or stress, that you then in turn go to a certain behavior that's non-serving? Could be something like comfort eating, and then that comfort eating then leads to you feeling guilty, shame, fearful, and then that strengthens the belief even more. You procrastinate even further, probably eat even crappier food, and that cycle continues until you start it all over again. So how does it make you feel? Bring awareness to how that cycle makes you feel, because that's going to help when it comes to changing it. Reframe. How would you like to behave instead? What is it you would like to feel or experience instead? Start to bring some compelling reasons around this, which is going to strengthen your ability to change. Why is it important to you? So why is it important that you change now? What's the new narrative that we can now build around this cycle that's going to allow us to reinforce it so we can repeat it over and over? And then we can build things like affirmations around it. What are the affirmative habits? So what habits support this new way of thinking and new way of operating? Schedule these habits in, because if you don't, will typically run on autopilot like you do every single day. And give yourself some exposure and repetition. The more exposure we get, the more chance we are that we're going to actually execute and move forward. So your practical ascension: what are you avoiding? Make a list of the things that you're avoiding right now in your life. How are you getting in your own way? So in what parts of your life are you getting in your own way right now? And track your patterns. So start to track your patterns and see, how do they show up for you? At what times in the day? Is there certain days that they show up? What's the things that happen just beforehand? The more awareness you can bring to it, the better. Here's your worksheets. Like I said, you can type hit me, or you can ask below in the group and I'll make sure to get them to you. All right. So what am I avoiding or procrastinating? What is the pattern? Reframe and affirm. So if we want to change it instead, what habits will support this new behavior? A couple of reminders. Practice makes progress. Don't aim for perfection, aim for progress. Do the mindset work, meaning work through the deeper level challenges that are actually holding you back, and be compassionate with yourself, because changing anything takes time, and it's why there's such a high failure rate. So that is it for today's training. Be well, take care, and don't forget to keep ascending.